He was found lying by the roadside, motionless, his once golden fur now crawling with thousands of ticks. The sight was unbearable, his body weak, his skin blistered, his breathing faint. Most people looked away in horror, but one man didn't. He knelt beside the dying dog, whispering, "Hang on, buddy. I've got you." What followed in the next few hours left rescuers in tears, and even the vet speechless. Because when they started removing the ticks one by one, they discovered something inside this dog's body that no one could have imagined. The desert road stretched endlessly beneath the scorching sun, shimmering with heat. Tom, a truck driver on his usual route, noticed something unusual near the roadside ditch. A faint movement, almost imperceptible. At first, he thought it was just the wind brushing against debris. But then, he saw it. A twitch, a slow, painful shiver. Curiosity turned into dread as he pulled over and stepped closer. There, lying half-buried in dust and blood, was a German Shepherd. His body was covered in thick clusters of ticks, his fur crawling with life. His skin was raw and blistered, his breathing shallow, his eyes barely open. Tom froze, horrified. "Oh my God," he whispered. The stench of decay mixed with the dry desert air was overwhelming. He tore off his jacket and gently draped it over the trembling animal. "You're not dying here," Tom said softly, his voice breaking. He looked around. No signal, no cars, no time to wait. Lifting the limp dog into his arms, Tom felt how fragile he'd become, bones and pain wrapped in skin. As he placed him on the truck seat, the dog let out a weak sigh. Tom whispered, "Hold on, buddy. I'm taking you home." Tom slammed the truck door shut and sped down the empty road, his hands trembling against the steering wheel. The engine roared, but all he could hear was the faint wheezing from the seat beside him. The dog, barely conscious, shivered violently, his head resting against the torn jacket. Every few seconds, Tom glanced over, whispering, "Just hang on, boy. Please hang on." The nearest animal clinic was nearly 30 miles away, and the GPS signal kept cutting out. Sweat rolled down Tom's temples as he pressed harder on the gas. "Come on, stay with me," he muttered, voice cracking. Then, suddenly, a soft whimper filled the cab, a sound so weak it felt like goodbye. Tom's heart pounded. He pulled over abruptly, checking for a pulse. The dog's heartbeat was faint, but there. "You're still fighting," he said, relief flooding his chest. He poured water over the dog's nose, trying to cool him down, then jumped back behind the wheel. The road blurred beneath the tires as Tom drove like a man possessed. The moment he reached the clinic, he burst through the doors yelling, "Please, he's dying." Within seconds, the vet team rushed forward. Dr. Harris took one look, and his face turned pale. Dr. Harris and his team gathered around the table as Tom watched helplessly from the corner. The German Shepherd lay motionless under the bright surgical light, his body twitching weakly. When the vet's gloved hand brushed through the dog's fur, the room went silent. Every inch of his skin seemed to move, alive with thousands of ticks. "Oh my God," one of the nurses whispered. "They're everywhere." Dr. Harris swallowed hard. "Sedate him. Now." They plucked, scraped, and cleaned, removing parasites that had buried themselves deep beneath the skin. The more they removed, the more appeared, inside his ears, around his eyes, even between his paws. Tom's stomach churned as he heard the soft clicks of tweezers and the quiet hum of machines keeping the dog alive. At one point, the monitor flatlined for a terrifying second. Everyone froze. But then, a weak beep returned. The vet exhaled shakily. "He's still fighting," he murmured. Dr. Harris stepped back, exhausted and shaken. "I've never seen a case this severe," he said quietly. "This poor soul. He's been suffering for months, maybe longer." Tom's voice cracked. "But he's alive, right?" Dr. Harris nodded slowly. "Barely. But as long as he's breathing, we won't stop." The clinic had transformed into a silent battlefield. Every heartbeat on the monitor, every faint breath, was a small victory. The German Shepherd, now wrapped in soft blankets, lay under constant observation. Dr. Harris and his assistant worked in shifts, refusing to leave his side. Tom slept in the waiting room, his head resting on folded arms, waking at every sound. Each time the door opened, his heart stopped, terrified it would be bad news. But each time, the vet simply said, "He's still holding on." By the second night, the dog's fever spiked dangerously high. His body trembled violently, and his breathing grew shallow. "We're losing him," the nurse said, panic rising in her voice. Dr. Harris grabbed a syringe and whispered, "Not today." He injected a final dose of antibiotics and fluids, massaging the dog's chest to stimulate his heart. Minutes felt like hours. The beeping slowed, then steadied. The room exhaled together. The dog's eyes fluttered open slightly, dull but alive. Tom rushed to his side, tears welling. "Hey, buddy. You made it," he whispered, his voice breaking. Doctor Harris smiled faintly. "He's a fighter. Most animals wouldn't have survived that infestation. But he did." Tom stroked the dog's paw gently. "He didn't give up," he said softly. "So neither will I." For the first time, hope replaced fear. Fragile but real, his fur started growing back, and his eyes, once clouded with pain, now shimmered with faint trust. Tom visited every day, sitting beside him for hours, talking as if the dog understood every word. Dr. Harris smiled each time he walked in. "He responds best when you're here," he told him. But one morning, something unusual caught the vet's attention. While reviewing blood test results, Dr. Harris frowned. "This can't be right," he muttered. He ran the tests again, same result. The dog's blood showed traces of chemical compounds not normally found in animals. "What on earth?" He called Tom into his office. "I think I know why he was like that," he said. "This wasn't neglect. He was experimented on." Tom froze. "Experimented?" Dr. Harris nodded grimly. "Someone used him in illegal lab testing, probably to test tick repellents or pesticide tolerance. Those ticks weren't random, they were part of it." Tom's jaw clenched, anger replacing shock. "They tortured him for profit." The vet sighed. "We've contacted authorities. If we find who did this, they'll face charges." Tom looked through the window at the recovering shepherd, now wagging his tail slowly. "You didn't just survive," he whispered. "You beat them." Dr. Harris nodded softly. "And now, thanks to you, his story might save hundreds more." That day, they gave him a name, Chance, because that's all he needed. One chance. Months passed, and the world began to know the name Chance. The frail, dying dog once found on a dusty roadside was now unrecognizable, strong, healthy, his golden coat shining under the sun. His story, shared online by Dr. Harris's clinic, spread like wildfire. Messages poured in from across the world, people calling him the dog who refused to die. Tom officially adopted Chance, and together they became inseparable. Each morning, they walked down the same road where he'd been found. Tom would smile, watching Chance trot proudly ahead, tail wagging high. "You don't look like a victim anymore," he'd say. "You look like a hero." The authorities eventually traced the illegal lab behind Chance's suffering and shut it down for good. Dr. Harris called Tom with the news, his voice trembling. "It's over. He didn't just survive. He made justice happen." Months later, the clinic hung a framed photo near the entrance. Chance, the dog who fought the impossible. In one final, cinematic moment, Tom knelt beside Chance at sunset on that same lonely road. The golden light bathed them both as Tom whispered, "You were never just rescued. You were reborn." Chance barked softly, eyes glimmering with life, before resting his head against Tom's hand.